The Painter of Smiles. There was once a man who lived at the very edge of a small town. He was not rich, he was not famous, but everyone knew him. His name was Elias Gray, and he was known simply as the Painter of Smiles. Now, Elias was no ordinary artist. While other painters filled their canvases with landscapes, sunsets, and portraits of noblemen, Elias painted only one thing: smiles. Yes, just smiles. At first, people laughed at him. A smile? That is nothing. Who would want a painting of such a simple thing? They said. But then something strange began to happen. Chapter 1: The Gift. Elias's paintings had power. Not the kind of power that comes with money or politics, but something far quieter and far more lasting. When a grieving widow came to his studio and saw a painting of her late husband's smile, she wept. Then, for the first time in months, she felt peace. When a lonely child saw her own smile on his canvas, she laughed, truly laughed, for the first time in her life. And when a tired old baker hung one of Elias's paintings in his shop, customers swore that the bread tasted sweeter. No one could explain it, but everyone felt it. Elias had a gift. His brush captured not just the curve of lips, but the warmth behind them, the hidden joy buried deep in the soul. He was not rich, but he was loved. Chapter 2: The Quiet Town. The town where Elias lived was not remarkable. Cobblestone streets, small markets, a river cutting through the valley. People went about their lives quietly, repeating the same routines year after year. And yet, because of Elias, the town had something rare: hope. His little studio, painted blue with a door that creaked whenever you opened it, became a place of pilgrimage. People traveled miles just to have him capture a smile they had lost, or one they had never truly found. But Elias himself? He remained a mystery. Though he painted thousands of smiles, he never smiled in public. His lips were always pressed into a thin line, his eyes carrying a weight no one dared to question. Chapter 3: The Girl Without a Smile. One autumn evening, as leaves fell like golden confetti, a small knock came at Elias's door. Standing there was a girl no older than 10, her hair tangled, her dress torn at the edges. She held nothing but a small wooden doll in her hand. "Are you the man who paints smiles?" she asked softly. "I am," Elias replied. "And who might you be?" "My name is Clara," she whispered. "They told me, you can paint anyone's smile, but I don't have one." Elias frowned. "Everyone has a smile, child. Some are hidden, but they are always there." Clara shook her head. "Not mine. My parents are gone. They say I've never smiled, not once. Can you paint a smile for me?" Elias's hand trembled. For the first time in his life, he did not know what to say. Chapter 4. The challenge. That night, Elias stared at a blank canvas. He tried to imagine Clara's smile, but the brush refused to move. For days he painted and repainted, yet every attempt felt hollow, lifeless. "How can I paint what has never existed?" he whispered to himself. He wandered the town searching for inspiration. He watched lovers at the marketplace, old friends sharing jokes, children skipping stones by the river. Smiles were everywhere, but none belonged to Clara. The people noticed. Elias, the man who had always given joy, now walked like a ghost, burdened by the impossible request of a little girl. Chapter 5: The Memory. One evening, Elias returned to his studio and opened an old trunk. Inside were faded canvases, his earliest works. But at the bottom, hidden beneath years of dust, lay a portrait unlike the others. It was the face of a woman, radiant, gentle, smiling. Elias touched the painting, and a tear rolled down his cheek. Her name was Lillian. Long ago, she had been his wife. She had the brightest smile he had ever known. But illness had taken her away too soon. And since that day, Elias had never smiled again. Perhaps that was why he painted. Each smile he captured was, in truth, an echo of hers. And now, Clara, the girl without a smile, was asking him to do the one thing he had never dared, to create joy from emptiness. Chapter 6: The Process. Elias invited Clara to his studio every day. They talked, they walked through the town, they sat by the river. At first, Clara was quiet, almost mute. But slowly, stories slipped from her lips, about her doll, about the stars she counted at night, about the lullaby her mother once sang. Elias did not force a smile. He simply listened. Day by day, the colors on his canvas began to change. The strokes grew lighter, warmer. The curve of the lips began to form, not perfect, but hopeful. And then, one afternoon, it happened. Clara, looking at the half-finished painting, tilted her head and whispered, "Is that me?" "Yes," Elias said softly. She stared. And for the first time in her life, the corners of her mouth lifted, uncertain but real. It was small, fragile, but it was a smile. Chapter 7, the final work. Weeks later, the painting was finished. It was not just Clara's face, it was Clara's smile. Gentle, shy, but filled with a light that could pierce the darkest night. When the townsfolk saw it, they gasped. And then something extraordinary happened. Clara, who had once believed she had no smile, began to laugh. Not just once, but often. Her joy spread through the town like sunlight. And Elias? For the first time in decades, his lips curved upward. He smiled, not for his canvas, not for the world, but for Clara, and for Lillian, and for himself. Chapter 8. The legacy years passed. Elias grew older, his hands slower, his eyesight dimmer, but his studio never emptied. People continued to come, seeking not just a painting, but a reminder that joy was still possible. When Elias finally passed away, they found one last canvas on his easel. It was unfinished, but it was unmistakably a smile. Some say it was his own. Clara, now grown, took over his studio. She did not paint as he did. Instead, she told stories of him, the man who believed every soul carried a smile, even if it was hidden in shadow. The town, once ordinary, became known across the land as the place where people came not for riches, but for happiness. And though Elias was gone, his legacy lived on in every smile he left behind. Perhaps that is the greatest art of all, not the strokes of a brush, not the colors on a canvas, but the courage to bring forth joy where there was none. Elias Gray, the painter of smiles, taught the world a lesson. That a smile, no matter how small, no matter how fragile, has the power to heal, to connect, and to live forever. And so whenever you find it hard to smile, remember him. And perhaps somewhere deep inside, you'll discover your own smile waiting to be painted. Just listen to The Painter of Smiles, the story of an artist who gifted the world with the purest of smiles. Perhaps each of us wishes to hold on to such a smile, simple, warm, and strong enough to chase away the darkest days. Thank you for sharing your time with me. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to join me again in the next episodes. Until we meet again, with more stories told through voice and felt deeply in the heart.